The restaurant fell silent when my mother's voice cut through the birthday chatter like a knife through butter. Daniel, let's be honest here. Your life is pointless. She lifted her wine glass like she was making a celebratory toast to the entire room. A handyman fantasy. That's all you've ever been. That's all you'll ever be. My siblings shifted uncomfortably in their seats. My brother Marcus looked down at his plate, studying it like it held the answers to life's mysteries. My sister Diane pretended to check her phone, scrolling through nothing. 47 years old, and I still felt like a small child under her harsh, judging gaze. You were the child I never should have bet on, she continued, smiling at the other diners as if sharing an inside joke they'd all appreciate. The one who disappointed me from the very start. My hands trembled as I stood up from the table. The chair scraped loudly against the polished floor, making several heads turn. I grabbed my coat from the back of my seat and headed for the door, my vision blurring slightly. Behind me, her final words echoed across the room, bouncing off walls. You'll never be good enough, Daniel. You never were. The cold night air hit my face as I stepped outside into the darkness, but I couldn't feel it. All I felt was the familiar, crushing ache. I sat in my truck for what felt like hours, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. But something was different this time, something I couldn't quite name. The hurt was still there, sharp and familiar, like an old wound reopening. But underneath it, something else stirred deep within my chest. Anger. Not the explosive, violent kind that destroys everything in its path. The quiet, awakening kind that changes everything forever. I'd spent 47 years trying to earn her approval, defending myself against her attacks. Defending myself at every turn. Explaining myself to anyone who would listen. Apologizing for simply existing in her world. And suddenly, sitting there in that cold parking lot with my breath fogging the windows, I understood something I'd never seen before, never allowed myself to see. Her cruelty wasn't about me or my failures. It was about her and her own inadequacies. Her desperate need to feel superior to everyone around her. Her deep fear of being seen as ordinary or unremarkable. Her desperate, clawing grip on control over everything and everyone. For the first time in my entire life, I stopped internalizing her poison as truth. I started seeing it for what it really was. I reached into my coat pocket for my keys and felt something crinkle under my fingers. An envelope. I pulled it out, confused and disoriented. I hadn't put anything in my pocket. The handwriting on the front made my blood run ice cold. I tore open the envelope under the dim, flickering glow of the truck's interior light. Inside was a handwritten letter on her expensive personal stationery, the kind with her name embossed at the top. My hands shook violently as I read each devastating word. It was addressed to Thomas Crawford, the client I'd been working with on a custom deck project for his backyard. The words cut like shards of broken glass through my chest. I feel obligated to warn you about my son Daniel, it began. He has a disturbing history of overcharging clients and showing emotional instability during projects. As his mother, I've tried desperately to help him, guide him toward better behavior, but he refuses all guidance and counsel. I strongly advise you to reconsider your contract with him immediately. He's not reliable or trustworthy in any professional capacity. My stomach dropped like a stone into dark water. She'd written this horrible letter, signed it with her neat signature, mailed it to my client. Behind my back, while smiling to my face, she tried to systematically destroy my livelihood, my reputation. I pulled out my phone with trembling, unsteady fingers. There was a voicemail from Thomas waiting. His voice was tight with barely controlled anger. Daniel, we need to talk immediately. I received a very disturbing letter about you and your work. Call me as soon as you possibly can. The timestamp showed he'd called 2 hours ago, right before our dinner gathering. She knew. She'd sabotaged me deliberately, then invited me to dinner just to watch me squirm. I drove straight to Thomas's house without thinking, my hands gripping the wheel. It was nearly 9 at night, but I couldn't possibly wait until morning to clear this up. He answered the door in his worn bathrobe, genuine surprise crossing his weathered face. Daniel, I didn't expect you tonight of all nights. I held up the crumpled envelope in my shaking hand. I just found this in my coat pocket. My mother slipped it to me after she sent you her terrible letter. Can we talk? Please. He stepped aside and let me into his warm, welcoming home. In his kitchen, under bright fluorescent lights, I laid out everything I had. My transparent records going back years. My detailed invoices for every job. My carefully organized receipts. I showed him the complete timeline of every project I'd successfully completed, every satisfied customer who'd recommended me to others. I didn't badmouth my mother or call her names. I didn't make elaborate excuses or blame anyone else. I just presented cold, hard facts and let them speak. Thomas studied the documents carefully, meticulously, then looked up at me with softer eyes. I believe you, he said finally, nodding slowly. Your work speaks for itself. I was angry when I got that letter, confused and upset, but now I'm just confused. Why would your own mother do something like this? I had no answer that made any sense. He pulled out his phone and showed me something else on the glowing screen. There's more. She sent me an email too. Multiple times, actually. The email was somehow worse than the handwritten letter, more calculating and cruel, more detailed in its accusations, more methodically destructive. She'd listed specific projects by name and claimed falsely that I'd abandoned them halfway through, leaving clients stranded. She'd mentioned other clients by name and fabricated detailed complaints that never happened. None of it was remotely true, but she'd clearly done her research thoroughly. She knew enough about my work, my schedule, my clients to make the elaborate lies sound completely believable to an outsider. She asked me to drop you as a contractor immediately, Thomas said quietly, looking uncomfortable. For the sake of your family, she said. She made it sound like helping you. I stared at the bright screen, feeling something crack open deep inside my chest. This wasn't just a momentary cruelty or a single angry outburst. This was a deliberate pattern of destruction. A calculated, ongoing campaign to systematically destroy everything I'd built over years. I thought back carefully over the past several years of my career. The client who'd suddenly cancelled without explanation last spring. The neighborhood association that had questioned my licensing despite me being fully certified and legal. The church renovation project that had gone to someone else after I'd been verbally promised the job by the pastor himself. It had all been her working behind the scenes. Every mysterious setback that seemed to come from nowhere. Every door that had closed in my face. She'd been sabotaging me for years, and I'd never connected the obvious dots until now. I left Thomas's house well after midnight, physically exhausted but mentally clearer than I'd been in years. Part of me wanted desperately to drive straight to her house and confront her, to throw all the evidence in her face and demand real answers, real explanations. But something deep inside stopped me from acting on that impulse. Reacting emotionally would give her exactly what she wanted most. Drama she could control. The chance to play the wounded victim. I decided something completely different in that moment. I would rise quietly, steadily, instead of fighting loudly and dramatically. I would build my life brick by careful brick without giving her the satisfaction of seeing my anger. The next morning my phone rang sharply at 7 o'clock. Unknown number flashing on the screen. Is this Daniel Reeves? A professional woman's voice asked. Yes, this is he. Who's calling? This is Patricia Holmes from Riverside Retirement Community. We're planning a major renovation project for our facility, and your name came very highly recommended by several people. Would you be available to tour the facility this week and provide a detailed bid? My heart raced in my chest like a drumbeat. Riverside was the largest, most respected retirement home in the entire county. This was the kind of substantial contract that could change everything about my business, my life. This was the opportunity I'd been working toward for years. I met Patricia at Riverside 2 days later on a bright Wednesday morning. The facility was much bigger than I'd imagined from the outside. 3 full floors, 200 individual rooms, multiple common areas that desperately needed complete overhauls and modernization. She walked me through every single space, patiently explaining their detailed vision for the renovations. Updated accessibility features throughout every hallway. Modernized bathrooms with safety bars and walk-in showers. Fresh paint throughout the entire building. New, slip-resistant flooring in all the dining areas and common spaces. This would be steady, reliable work for at least a full year, Patricia explained. We need someone reliable and patient. Someone who understands the special needs of elderly residents. Someone who won't cut corners or rush through important safety features. I took careful, detailed notes and precise measurements. I asked thoughtful questions about their realistic budget and flexible timeline. By the end of the comprehensive tour, I felt genuinely hopeful in a way I hadn't experienced in months. I spent that entire evening preparing a detailed, fair bid that showcased my abilities. I included solid references from past clients. Photos of previous projects I was proud of. A transparent breakdown of all costs. When I finally finished around midnight, I felt good about the work. I walked out to my truck to grab my forgotten water bottle. My mother was leaning against the driver's side door, arms crossed tightly. "Hello, Daniel," she said coldly. "You embarrassed me horribly at that dinner," she said, her voice sharp as broken glass. Walking out like a spoiled child throwing a tantrum in front of everyone. I unlocked my truck slowly, deliberately calm despite my racing heart. I needed to leave that situation. "You made me look like a terrible mother in front of all those people, Daniel. I didn't say anything about you, Mom. I just quietly left." She stepped closer, blocking my door completely with her body. "You're always so dramatic about everything. So sensitive to the smallest criticism. You need to stop pretending you're something you're not, something you'll never be." I held the bid folder protectively against my chest. Her sharp eyes dropped to it immediately, and something dark and calculating flickered across her lined face. "What's that you're holding?" she demanded. "A work proposal," I said simply. "For what kind of work?" "A renovation project. A big one." "Where?" she pressed. I hesitated, then said, "Riverside Retirement Community." She reached for the folder, but I pulled it back quickly. Her jaw tightened visibly, muscles working. "Riverside?" she asked, her voice changing. My silence confirmed her suspicion. Her expression shifted rapidly from annoyance to something much colder, more dangerous. "Pure calculation. That's too big for you, Daniel. Way too big. You'll fail spectacularly. You'll embarrass yourself in front of the whole town." I opened my truck door firmly. "I really need to go now." She grabbed my arm hard. "I'll make sure you don't get it." Within just 3 days, I noticed the disturbing shift in my small town. My usual lumber supplier was suddenly cold and distant when I called. "We're going to need cash up front from now on," he said bluntly. No explanation offered. At the local hardware store, the friendly owner avoided eye contact completely. When I ran into my neighbor Angela at the post office, she crossed the street without her usual wave. My brother Marcus finally called on Thursday afternoon, his voice tight. "What the hell did you do to Mom?" he demanded. "What are you talking about? I haven't done anything. Mom's telling everyone you stole money from her, that you forged her signature on checks. People are asking me about it, Daniel." My stomach twisted painfully. "That's absolutely not true, Marcus." "Well, she's got bank statements or something. She's showing them around town to anyone who'll look." "Marcus, I've never taken a single cent from her. I've been giving her my money for years." "That's not what she's saying to people." My sister Diane sent a brief text message an hour later. "You need to apologize to Mom immediately. This is getting completely out of hand and embarrassing for all of us." I didn't respond to either of them. I couldn't defend myself against elaborate lies I didn't even fully understand yet. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. She was trying to destroy my reputation before Riverside made their final decision. I spent the entire weekend gathering solid evidence against her lies. Bank statements going back 5 years. Cancelled checks with her own signature clearly visible. Receipts from all the times I'd covered her car payment, her insurance bills, her credit card debts. I'd kept everything, not because I didn't trust her at the time, but because I was naturally careful with financial records. It was just habit, ingrained practice. I made copies of absolutely everything and organized it all chronologically. Then I started making difficult phone calls. I reached out to the lumber supplier and calmly explained the complicated situation. I showed him my consistent payment history over years. He softened immediately, looking embarrassed. Your mother came in last week and said you'd been writing bad checks all over town. I'm really sorry, man. I should have asked you first before assuming. I visited Angela next at her home. She invited me in reluctantly, clearly uncomfortable. I don't want drama, Daniel. I have enough problems. I just want to show you something quick, I said gently. I laid out the bank statements on her kitchen table. These are deposits I personally made into my mother's account over the last 5 years. I've never taken money from her. Ever. Angela's suspicious face changed as she studied the papers carefully. She said you forged these statements somehow. Call the bank directly if you want. They'll verify every single transaction. By Sunday night I'd cleared my name with most people in town. Then Patricia from Riverside called my cell. We've heard some concerning rumors about you, Daniel. Can we meet in person? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. I'd rather explain face to face if possible. Patricia agreed without hesitation. We met at a quiet coffee shop early Monday morning. I brought my thick folder of evidence, but I didn't lead with it aggressively. Instead, I told her the simple, painful truth. My mother has been spreading false information about me around town. I honestly don't know why she's doing this, but I want you to know that every single reference I provided is real and verifiable. Every past client can verify my work quality. I've never stolen from anyone in my life. I've never abandoned a project halfway through. And I've kept detailed records of everything I've ever done professionally. Patricia listened without interrupting, her expression neutral. When I finished, she asked gently, "Why would your mother do something like this?" I honestly don't know the answer, but I'm not going to let it define me or stop me. I've built my reputation through honesty and hard work. That speaks louder than rumors. She studied me for a long, uncomfortable moment. Then she smiled warmly. That's exactly the kind of character we want working with our vulnerable residents. The contract is yours, Daniel. I almost couldn't believe what I was hearing. Really? You're sure? Really? Or sure? Start date is 3 weeks from today. I felt tears prick my eyes but held them back. Word spread quickly through our small town. In a place this size, nothing stayed secret for very long. By Wednesday, people knew I'd landed the substantial Riverside contract, and that I'd gotten it despite my mother's aggressive attempts to sabotage me. I noticed the shift again, but this time it was in my favor. The lumber supplier called to congratulate me warmly. Angela stopped by my house with homemade cookies. Even Marcus sent a brief, grudging text. Good job. But my mother didn't reach out at all. Not a word. Not a text. Not a call. Until Friday afternoon, when she showed up unexpectedly at the Riverside site. I was meeting with the electrical contractor when I saw her distinctive car pull up. She got out, her face tight with barely controlled fury, and marched toward me. "Daniel!" she shouted across the lot. I excused myself from the contractor and met her halfway across the parking lot. "You need to leave this property immediately. How dare you take this project after what you did to me? I didn't do anything to you, Mom. You turned everyone against me. You made me look like a liar in front of the whole town." Her voice was rising steadily. My crew had stopped working to watch the scene unfold. "Mom, please leave. This is my job site." She ignored me completely and kept yelling. "You're selfish. Ungrateful. After everything I sacrificed for you over the years. My foreman, Luis, approached carefully but firmly. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the property now. She whirled on Luis with surprising speed and aggression. Don't you dare tell me what to do. This is a construction site, Luis said calmly but firmly. For safety reasons, you need to leave immediately. 2 other crew members came to stand beside him supportively. Not threatening, just present and solid. My mother looked around at them, then back at me with hatred in her eyes. You'll regret this, Daniel, she hissed through clenched teeth. Then she stormed back to her car and drove off, tires squealing dramatically. The crew stood in awkward, uncomfortable silence. Sorry about that, I said, feeling my face burn. Luis shook his head firmly. Don't apologize. Family's complicated for everyone. Later that afternoon, he pulled me aside privately. Listen, I don't mean to pry into your business, but I heard something. Your mom's losing her house. Foreclosure notice went up last week. My blood went cold. Are you absolutely sure? My wife works at the county clerk's office. She saw the filing herself. That evening, both Marcus and Diane called within minutes of each other. They both blamed me for everything. You could have helped her, Diane said accusingly. You knew she was struggling financially. I didn't know anything about a foreclosure, Diane. Because you cut her off completely. I never cut her off. I just stopped letting her control my entire life. Marcus was even harsher, more aggressive. She raised us alone after Dad left. The least you could do is bail her out now. With what money? Asked frustrated. I'm a contractor, not a millionaire, Marcus. You just got that huge Riverside contract everyone's talking about, which I haven't been paid for yet. And even when I am, that money's already allocated for business expenses. So you're just going to let her lose everything she owns. She's been sabotaging my business for years. Did either of you know that? Heavy silence on the line. She sent letters to my clients calling me unstable. She spread rumors that I stole from her. She tried to cost me the Riverside contract. And you're asking me to bail her out financially. More uncomfortable silence. Then Diane said quietly, She's still our mother, Daniel. I know she is, I said. But I can't save someone who's actively trying to destroy me. Neither of them had an answer for that statement. 3 days later, she called me Sunday night. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Her voice was different, smaller, frightened. Daniel, I need help. I said nothing, waiting. They're taking my house. Have 30 days before eviction. I tried everything. I've called everyone. You're the only one left who can help me. How much do you need? 40,000 to catch up the payments. I felt the crushing weight of that number. It might as well have been 400,000. Mom, I don't have that kind of money. You will. When Riverside pays you. That money's already allocated. Equipment, materials, crew salaries. You can figure something out. You're good at that. Then she said the line. You owe me, Daniel. I raised you. My jaw clenched tight. I'll think about it. What's there to think about? I'm your mother. I said I'll think about it. I hung up before she could respond. But I already knew my answer. I called her back 2 days later. My hands were steady this time. I can't give you $40,000. Can't or won't. Both. I don't have it, and even if I did, I wouldn't use it to finance your bad decisions. Bad decisions. Is that what you think of me? Mom, you've been lying about me to my clients. You've been trying to ruin my business. You showed up at my job site and caused a scene. And now you want me to rescue you from foreclosure. I'm your mother. And I've been your son for 47 years. That didn't stop you from trying to destroy everything I built. The silence stretched long and cold. When she spoke again, her voice was different. Hard. If you don't help me, I'll tell everyone who you really are. What does that mean? I have stories, Daniel. Things from your childhood. Things that would make people question your character. Go ahead, I said. I'm done living in fear of you. Hung up. This time I blocked her number. The rumors came fast. She told people I'd abused her emotionally for years. That I'd manipulated her finances and left her destitute. That I'd turned her own children against her. Some people believed her at first. But something interesting happened this time. Her desperation showed through. She told too many conflicting stories. She pushed too hard. And people started seeing through the lies. Angela came by the job site with lunch one day. Your mom came to my house again, she said. She wanted me to sign some kind of petition against you. Did you sign it? Angela laughed. Hell no. Daniel, I've known you for 15 years. You fixed my porch for half price when my husband lost his job. You checked on my dad when he was sick. I know who you are. Others came forward too. Past clients, neighbors, people who'd worked with me over the years. They vouched for me without me asking. Meanwhile, the eviction notice on my mother's door became common knowledge. People felt sorry for her, but they didn't blame me anymore. 3 weeks later, she lost the house. Marcus called to tell me. The sheriff came this morning. They changed the locks. Mom's staying with Diane temporarily. How's she doing? How do you think? I felt a pang of something. Not quite guilt, but not satisfaction either. I'm sorry it came to this. Are you? Marcus asked. Yeah, Marcus. I never wanted her to lose her house. I just couldn't sacrifice everything I've built to save her. He sighed. Diane can only keep her for a week. After that, I don't know. Neither did I. 2 days later, on a gray Thursday afternoon, my mother appeared at my door. She looked smaller somehow. Older. She had 2 suitcases and a cardboard box. I have nowhere else to go, she said. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just a simple statement of need. I looked at her standing on my porch, and I felt the weight of 47 years. Every criticism. Every dismissal. Every time she'd made me feel worthless. But I also saw something else. A broken woman who'd spent her whole life trying to feel superior and had ended up alone. I stepped aside. Come in. I set her up in my guest room. Fresh sheets. Clean towels. I made her tea and a sandwich. She sat at my kitchen table and looked around my small house with barely concealed disdain. This is all you have. It's enough for me. After all those years of work. I'm comfortable. I have what I need. She picked at her sandwich. How long can I stay? We'll figure it out. That wasn't good enough for her. Over the next few days, she made her expectations clear. She needed a permanent place to live. She needed financial support. She needed me to make everything okay again. And she acted like it was my duty. My obligation. Payment for the years she'd raised me. One evening, after I'd spent 12 hours at the Riverside site, I came home to find her on my couch watching television. Dinner's not ready, she asked. I just got home. I assumed you'd pick something up. I assumed you'd make something since you've been here all day. Her eyes narrowed. Is that all? After everything I've done for you? Something inside me broke open. Not in anger. In clarity. I sat down across from her and said the words I'd buried for 4 decades. Mom, you've spent my entire life telling me I wasn't good enough. You mocked my dreams. You dismissed my work. You sabotaged my business. You spread lies about me. And now you're sitting in my home acting like I owe you something. I raised you alone. And I appreciate that. But raising a child doesn't give you the right to abuse them forever. Abuse. I never hit you. There are other ways to hurt someone. She looked away. You're being dramatic. You wrote letters to my clients calling me unstable. You told people I stole from you. You showed up at my job site to humiliate me. What would you call that? I was trying to help you see reality. No. You were trying to keep me small so you could feel big. She denied everything. Course she did. You can stay here for 1 month, I said. I'll help you find an apartment. But after that, you're on your own. The month was tense. She moved through my house like a ghost, bitter and silent. She complained about everything. The water pressure, the noise from the street, the size of the television. But she refused any attempt to help her find a new place. I shouldn't have to live in some tiny apartment, she said. I raised 3 children in a real house. That house is gone, Mom. Because my own son abandoned me. I stopped engaging with the circular arguments. Instead, I focused on work. The Riverside project was moving ahead of schedule. The residents loved the updates. Patricia praised my attention to detail. My crew worked efficiently and professionally. I was building something I could be proud of. One afternoon, I came home early and heard my mother on the phone in the guest room. Her voice carried through the thin walls. He owes me this house. I raised him. He wouldn't exist without me. I stood in the hallway listening. No, Diane, I'm not leaving. This is my house now. He just doesn't know it yet. I knocked on her door. She hung up quickly when I entered. We need to talk. I'm tired, Daniel. This is my house, not yours. You don't have any claim to it. Her face hardened. I gave you life. That's a claim. That's not how property ownership works. I sacrificed everything for you. I pulled out a folder I'd been keeping in my office. Inside were copies of every check I'd written to her over the years. Every bill I'd paid. Every time I'd bailed her out of financial trouble. You didn't sacrifice everything, Mom. I've been supporting you financially for over a decade. I laid the papers on the bed between us. That's not real. Call the bank. They'll confirm every transaction. She stared at the evidence, face pale. Then she looked up at me with something new in her eyes. Not shame. Accusation. You're turning the world against me. Everyone. Even my own children. I'm not turning anyone against you. I'm just refusing to let you destroy me anymore. The silence that followed felt like the end of something. Her month ended on a rainy Tuesday. I'd found her a small 1-bedroom apartment across town. It wasn't fancy, but it was clean and affordable. I offered to pay the first 3 months of rent. Nothing more. 3 months, she asked. That's insulting. That's generous, considering everything. I won't take it. Then find something else. She packed her bags in angry silence. When the cab arrived, she dragged her suitcases to the door and turned to look at me one last time. One day you'll regret this, she said. Maybe, I replied. But I don't regret it now. She walked out into the rain without another word. I watched the cab disappear down the street, and I felt something I hadn't expected. Relief. Not happiness. Not satisfaction. Just the quiet relief of finally setting down a weight I'd carried too long. The apartment was silent after she left. I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table, looking at the plans for the Riverside project. Tomorrow I'd focus on the grand opening. Tonight I'd just breathe. The Riverside grand opening was scheduled for a Saturday in late October. The weather cooperated, giving us clear skies and crisp autumn air. The facility looked transformed. Bright, modern, accessible, warm. The residents had watched the progress with excitement, and now they gathered in the courtyard for the ribbon-cutting ceremony. The mayor came, local reporters, family members of residents. Patricia gave a speech thanking the team, and she mentioned me by name. Daniel Reeves showed us what true craftsmanship and dedication look like. This project wouldn't have been possible without his vision and integrity. People applauded warmly. My crew stood off to the side, grinning proudly. Luis gave me a thumbs up. I felt proud in a way I never had before. Not because someone was praising me, but because I'd built something meaningful. As the ceremony ended and people mingled, drinking punch and eating cookies, I noticed a figure standing alone at the edge of the crowd. Gray coat, arms crossed tightly. My mother. She'd come after all. I didn't know how she'd heard about the event, but there she was. Our eyes met across the courtyard. She approached slowly, carefully. People moved aside without realizing why. When she reached me, she stopped a few feet away. The crowd noise faded into background buzz. "It looks good," she said quietly. "Thank you." She glanced around at the building, at the happy residents, at the mayor still chatting with Patricia. Then she looked back at me. "I always knew you'd make it." The words hung in the air between us. For a moment I felt that old familiar pull. The desire to believe her. To accept the olive branch. To pretend the past hadn't happened. But then I remembered everything. The letters. The lies. The sabotage. The birthday dinner. I looked her in the eyes and spoke clearly. "No, Mum. You never believed in me. I became this despite you, not because of you." Her face twitched. Something crumbled behind her eyes. "Daniel, I hope you find peace," I said. "I really do. But I can't be part of your life anymore." I turned away from her. I walked back toward my crew, toward Patricia and the residents, toward the life I'd built with my own hands and my own heart. Behind me, I heard her footsteps retreat slowly across the gravel parking lot. I didn't turn around to watch her go. This was my moment, my hard-earned victory. And it belonged to me alone, no one else. Luis clapped me on the shoulder. "You good, boss." "Yeah," I said, and I meant it. "I'm good." The rest of the day passed in a blur of handshakes and congratulations. Residents came up to thank me personally for making their home more comfortable. One elderly woman named Mrs. Chen grabbed my hand with surprising strength. "You did beautiful work, young man. You should be very proud." I was proud. For the first time in my life, I felt genuinely proud of myself without needing anyone else's approval. That evening, after everyone had left and the facility was quiet, I walked through the renovated spaces one more time. The new handrails gleamed. The fresh paint still smelled clean. The updated lighting made everything feel warm and welcoming. This was what I'd built. Not just a renovation project, but proof that I was capable, skilled, worthy. Patricia found me in the main hallway. "Thank you again, Daniel. This exceeded our expectations in every way." "It was my pleasure," I said honestly. "Really? We'll be recommending you to every facility in the region." That recommendation would change my business. New contracts, new opportunities, a future built on solid ground instead of shaky approval. Driving home that night, I thought about my mother standing at the edge of the crowd. I wondered if she understood what she'd lost by trying to keep me small. I wondered if she felt any regret. But I realized something important. It didn't matter. Her feelings weren't my responsibility anymore. Her approval wasn't my goal. I'd spent 47 years trying to be good enough for her. Now I just needed to be good enough for myself. And I was. The next few weeks brought more changes. Thomas called to tell me he'd recommended me to his brother-in-law for a major kitchen renovation. The lumber supplier offered me a discount for being such a reliable customer. Angela invited me to join the neighborhood association board. Slowly, steadily, my life filled with opportunities and connections I'd built myself. Marcus called one evening. "Hey, I just wanted to say I'm sorry." "For what?" "For not believing you about Mom. For blaming you. Diane and I have been talking, and we realize now what you were dealing with." "Thanks, Marcus. That means a lot." "She's doing okay, by the way. Still bitter, still convinced she's the victim, but she's surviving." "That's good," I said. And I meant it. I didn't wish harm on her. I just couldn't let her harm me anymore. "You did the right thing," Marcus said. "Setting boundaries. I should have done it years ago." "It's never too late," I told him. After we hung up, I sat in my quiet living room and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not happiness, not excitement, just simple, steady peace. The holidays came and went. I spent Thanksgiving with Luis and his family. Christmas with Angela and her dad. New Year's alone but not lonely. In January, Patricia called with another proposal. "We're expanding. Adding a new wing. We'd like you to lead the project." "I'd be honored," I said. "When do we start?" "Next month." "But Daniel, this is a 2-year project. Are you ready for that commitment?" "Absolutely." I was ready. More than ready. I'd spent my whole life preparing for this, even when I didn't know it. One February afternoon, I was at the hardware store picking up supplies when I saw her. My mother, standing in the paint aisle, looking older and smaller than I remembered. She saw me too. For a moment we just stood there, 10 feet apart, surrounded by cans of paint and the smell of sawdust. She looked like she might approach, might say something. But then she turned away and walked toward the checkout. I felt a pang of something. Not regret exactly. More like sadness for what could have been if she'd been different, if I'd been different, if everything had been different. But I didn't chase after her. I didn't try to fix it. Some things can't be fixed, only accepted. I finished my shopping and went back to work. That spring, the new wing at Riverside began taking shape. It was ambitious, challenging, exactly the kind of project I dreamed about when I first started working with my hands. My crew expanded. I hired 3 new people, trained them carefully, treated them with respect. Luis became my partner officially. We shook hands on it over coffee one morning. "You sure about this?" he asked. "Never been more sure of anything," I said. The business grew steadily. Not explosively but sustainably. I bought a small office space downtown. Hung my contractor's license on the wall with pride. Printed business cards with my name in bold letters. Every small success felt monumental because I'd earned it myself. Built it from nothing despite every obstacle. 2 years after that birthday dinner, I stood in the completed new wing of Riverside, surrounded by grateful residents and proud staff members. Patricia presented me with a plaque, in recognition of exceptional service and dedication. I hung it in my office the next day right next to my license. That evening I drove past my mother's apartment building. Her car was parked outside. Lights on in her window. She was there, living her life separate from mine. I didn't stop. I didn't wave. I just kept driving toward my own home, my own life, my own peace. Sometimes people asked if I ever regretted cutting her off completely. I didn't cut her off, I'd explain. I just stopped letting her cut me down. There's a difference. Big one. I'd learned that you can't build anything solid on a foundation of approval-seeking and fear. You have to build on truth, on your own worth, on the knowledge that you're enough exactly as you are. My mother never taught me that lesson. But her cruelty accidentally did. By trying to keep me small, she forced me to prove I was capable of being large. By sabotaging my success, she made me work harder to achieve it. By withholding her approval, she taught me I didn't need it. In a strange way, I owed her for that. Not gratitude exactly, but acknowledgement. She'd shaped me, just not in the way she intended. Now, at 49, I run a successful contracting business. I have genuine friendships. I sleep well at night knowing I've treated people fairly and built things that matter. I'm good enough. Not because anyone told me so. Because I decided it was true. And that's the real victory.